management, and advertisers.
Liberalism is back in style. Welcome to the evolution.
What if you knew Fox News was just lying to you? How could you watch when you know?
He was voted Variety Entertainer of the Year in the Excellence in the Arts Award. And is one of the highest Arbitron, now Nielsen-rated talk radio hosts in Las Vegas. He is also a refreshing voice of logic and reason. Live from the entertainment capital of the world, Doug Basham.
And good morning, my fellow wokes and Republican jokes. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Doug Basham, and welcome to the Doug Basham Show right here on KSHP in Las Vegas and on social media, and to a genuine demonstration of excellence in broadcasting. Hey, everybody. Great to see you all again. I am Doug Basham, your certified card-carrying member in good standing of the Enemy Within Brigade, also known as one radical leftist lunatic who needs to be handled by the American military. I welcome you all to day 17 of Morning in America, morning spelled with a U, of course, as true patriots who love this country grieve the loss of its democracy and anxiously await the stroke that just might save America and mankind. My website is DougBasham.com, last name spelled B as in Bob, A-S-H-A-M as in mayhem, DougBasham.com, my email, Doug@DougBasham.com. That said, I extend a warm yet morose welcome to those of you listening on KSHP, AM 1400 and 107.1 FM on your radio dial here in Las Vegas. We are also broadcasting on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and X. And I'm told we'll return to TikTok on Tuesday. Now, if you go to my website, again, DougBasham.com, you will discover it's all of one page. At the top, you'll see the show's logo. Underneath, 11 links, most to my social media sites. Also want to contact me via email. Now, the two links I'd like to call your attention to the most are, one, my YouTube page, and two, my TikTok page. On my YouTube page, I would respectfully ask you hit the subscribe button. On TikTok, please hit the red follow button. And hey, if you would like to watch this show live and not just listen to it, reason being this show is very clip intensive and I play video clips. Also, just because this face was made for television, just go to my website, then go to my YouTube, Facebook, or X pages, whereupon you can indeed watch the show live. 221-7283 is our call-in number here at the station, folks. If you would like to talk on the radio somewhere in our second half hour together, that's 702-221-SAVE, as in save our democracy, something we failed to do on Election Day. And now, on to our broken news for the day. Yesterday, we presented just a meticulously researched and studiously crafted bit on the new Congresswoman-elect from Delaware, Sarah McBride, who will become the first transgender woman to serve in Congress. I gave you her resume, and I played you several clips from different interviews Sarah had done, in which I assume and or hope that she impressed you as much as she did me. We then went on to highlight the humorous antics of one Nancy Mace, the GOP congresswoman from South Carolina, who decided to welcome Sarah McBride to the Congress by introducing a resolution to amend House rules that would ban McBride from using the women's restroom. And in her own words, and you heard them yesterday, Mace said this was the hill upon which she was willing to die. In all of Sarah's interviews, portions of which we heard yesterday, they all revolved around one ad the Trump campaign spent millions upon millions of dollars on. If you missed it, here it is again.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
It's hard to believe, but it's true. Even the liberal media was shocked Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners and illegal aliens.
Every transgender inmate would have access.
Kamala's for they, them. President Trump is for you.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Now, in all candor, I didn't present yesterday's show as well as I wanted to, likely because I was up till 5 a.m. in the morning getting it all ready. And I wasn't exactly what they call on the ball. And then I got up at 9 a.m., which I do every morning. That gives me 2 hours to have my breakfast, check any news that might have broken overnight. You know, like Matt Jailbait Gates withdrawing his name for consideration to be the Orange Traders Attorney General. That also gives me time to prepare myself for this show. As shocking as it may be, nobody wakes up in the morning looking this good. There's quite a bit of effort that goes into that as well. Well, maybe not that much. And I don't mind telling you, a bit like I did yesterday, and frankly, every show I do, but even more so in a show like yesterday, it's a lengthy process. Researching and listening to and watching many, many clips, picking out the clips you want to use, recording those clips, taking each individual clip into my video editing program, editing them, saving them, and then entering them into the queue so they're ready to be played in the show. And as I said, an exceptionally detailed show like yesterday's takes even longer. Thus, thanks to that horrendously late night, I was about as sharp as a marble. But if you remove me from the equation, it was a heck of a show. I mean, the way I did the weave, the way the weave was intended to be, did you notice that? It was perfectly pristine. And the fact that I got to the point I wanted to get to, that almost never happens. Before the show, I told Justin I had 25 clips, and Justin said, 25? I'll bet you don't get past 14. And I told him, you're probably right. But we did it. We hit all 25. I just wish I had been there to appreciate it. That said, I would like to continue in the Sarah McBride, Nancy Mace vein today, primarily because I see Sarah McBride as a bright spot in an otherwise dismal election. I see her as a potential rising star in the Democratic Party, and Nancy Mace, of course, is the perfect foil. Add to that, I am getting bored and frankly frustrated beyond belief covering and reporting on this vile and loathsome three-ring circus disguised as an incoming presidency, and the ridiculous, insulting, and dangerous names Trump keeps floating for cabinet positions, whose only commonality seems to be their sexual deviancy. They all seem like just a bunch of scandalous caricatures, almost cartoon characters. I mean, it's all a gigantic joke, but make no mistake, it ain't funny, except to those in Trump's brain-dead MAGA cult base who think nominating people with no other governmental qualification than a desire to burn it all to the ground are sensible choices. But you know what they say? Where there's a clown, you're likely to find a circus surrounding him. Or the shorter version, elect a clown, expect a circus. So yeah, my patience is wearing thin on that complete farce. Real thin. As Linda Lovelace and Jenna Jameson once said, I've had it up to here. And as I've said before, the only nominee I was zeroing in on was Matt Jailbait Gaetz to be our next Attorney General. Why? As I said the other day, because of the awesome power of the office of the DOJ. I mean, the Attorney General is often referred to as the nation's top cop. And as we've learned, the office of the Attorney General has the power to even indict an ex-president. And most of them would do it in a timely fashion, unlike the tearful, timid cream puff we currently have as our Attorney General, who we still haven't learned if he plans on releasing Special Counsel Jack Smith's final report. Doesn't want to appear partisan, you know. If he ever were to appear so, why, he'd have no other recourse than to tear up. And now that Matt Gaetz has withdrawn his name from consideration to be the Attorney General, we can now await Trump's next likely unqualified, equally horrifying choice. But it is nice to see, isn't it? He isn't even back in office yet, and the Orange Trader's cabinet is falling apart already. And while some are saying Gaetz gave everything up for Trump, I'm not so sure. Yes, he resigned his seat in Congress, but he was also just reelected, overwhelmingly. And I don't know if there's any mechanism whereby he can't just withdraw his resignation and take his seat in the next Congress. And the one part of the Constitution I found that addresses this says, quote, the resignation of a member from the House, whether presented to the executive authority of the state concerned or to the Speaker of the House, becomes effective on its stated terms and ordinarily may not be withdrawn. Ordinarily seems to me will probably become in the eyes of the beholder. But then, if Gaetz stays, what happens to the House Ethics Report? The excuse they've been using to not release it is that Gaetz is no longer a member of Congress. What if he returns? But this just happened. I'm sure we'll learn more as the day progresses. But speaking of cartoon characters, but much more pleasant to look at than Matt Gaetz, Nancy Mace and her one-woman crusade against trans Congresswoman-elect Sarah McBride. And by the way, looks are important, at least to me. I mean, if I'm going to have to do research on someone and then hate on them, I'd rather it be on someone whose very face doesn't make me want to go bury my head in my toilet. And I do have some juicy updates on Nancy Mace, who just can't stop telling you she was raped. So let's start with Sarah and then move up to Nancy. Or move on to Nancy. Take your pick. Now, I got 4 clips I didn't use in my masterpiece yesterday. This first one was from an interview Sarah did on CNN.
Certainly did not run on transgender specific issues. You did beat your opponent by 15 percentage points, and you just talked about all of the things that you did run on that got you to that point. However, are you worried about walking into a Congress where it might be a hostile environment?
Well, I am used to working with people who have a range of beliefs, and including working with people who have voted against LGBTQ rights. My job is to work with anyone who's willing to work with me to help Delaware. And look, are there some professional provocateurs parading as public officials in national politics on the far right? Yes, but those are Republicans who won't work with any Democrat and can barely work with their own Republican colleagues. I'm ready to work with my Democratic colleagues led by our incredible leader, Hakeem Jeffries, and I'm ready to work with Republicans who are serious legislators who are ready to roll up their sleeves, dive into the details, work with me to deliver real progress for our constituents.
I do want to ask you about what it says about our country that you had this historic win, despite a lot of fears from people in the LGBTQ community.
Well, first off, I think last week was certainly a week of mixed emotions for me. But I am filled with gratitude. As I am now in D.C., headed to new member orientation, I'm filled with gratitude to the hundreds of thousands of Delawareans who turned out to vote and entrusted me with the awesome responsibility of representing them in the United States House of Representatives. I love Delaware. I am so proud of our state. Not only were we the first state to sign on to the work of building a more perfect union, but we are also, as we like to say, a state of neighbors. And I think in this election, we demonstrated that once again, Delaware voters are judging candidates based on their ideas and not their identities. And I think it sent a powerful message to the country that our democracy can be big enough for all of us.
Now that was a great line. Professional provocateurs masquerading as politicians. And that was a nice thought she ended on. It was a beautiful thought, actually. Our democracy can be big enough for all of us. Our country can be big enough for all of us. Because frankly, I don't know how much longer we'll be able to use the word democracy, in which case this country will most certainly not be big enough for all of us. It almost isn't right now. But here's my concern. Hatred for the other isn't something you're born with. It's something you're taught and learned to do. And I just fear that those who presently harbor that hatred for the other, be it trans people, gay people, immigrants, anyone whose skin color isn't the same as yours, or even anyone whose beliefs aren't the same as yours, I fear that hatred and discriminatory nature will be taught and passed down to newer generations. And then, depending on what effect their life experiences, learnings, and influences have on them, that will determine their attitude towards the other. So again, beautiful thought, Sarah. I just hope this country and its peoples can live up to it. And this next clip, just checking to see if I have it in the queue, this next clip is from the interview we heard parts of yesterday on PBS.
Let's talk about what you would be able to do in Congress, though, because as we sit here and speak now, it's very likely you're going to be in the minority in the House. You're going to have Republicans controlling the Senate, Republicans controlling the White House. So what is realistic and achievable for you in the way of policy goals?
Look, democracy only works if we're willing to not only have conversation across disagreement, but work across disagreement. I'm proud that during my time in the Delaware General Assembly, nearly every bill that I introduced and passed with bipartisan support. So I'm ready to roll up my sleeves, dive into the details, and work with anyone who's willing to work with me to help Delaware. Now, obviously, given the results of the election, that's often going to mean standing up to the Trump-Vance administration and their attempt to undermine workers and retirees in this country. But where there are opportunities to find common ground, sometimes on the issues outside of the headlines, there's an ability. What are some of those
issues, for example?
Well, so for instance, in Delaware, I was able to work very closely with our conservative Republican leader in the state Senate to expand access to oral health care in rural communities. I'd love to continue to work on issues that matter to Delawareans in urban, suburban, and rural areas across the state of Delaware. And I'm going to look for those opportunities on a whole host of issues that make a real difference in the lives of my constituents. They might fall outside the traditional ideological and partisan battle lines. And those are issues where you can find common ground with Republicans. And I look forward to building relationships and building trust and respect with colleagues on the other side of the aisle. But we can't give up on our capacity to find durable bipartisan solutions for this country.
Again, Sarah, wonderful thought. But the harsh reality is today's Trump-publicans have zero interest in bipartisanship whatsoever. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't try, just advising you don't get your hopes up. And certainly don't hold your breath. And she said much the same thing during her interview on CNN with Jake Tapper.
So you come from a blue state. You have Democratic governor, 2 Democratic senators. You're the Democratic at-large elected congresswoman. You're about to be in the minority in the U.S. House, coming from you're a state senator and you're in the majority there. How do you plan on working with Republicans, many of whom, you know, might be part of these culture wars on the other side?
Sure. Well, I think in a democracy, you not only have to have conversations across disagreement, but you've got to be willing to work with people across disagreement. Throughout my campaign, I said, I will work with anyone who is willing to work with me to help Delaware. I'm proud that during my time in the Delaware State Senate, nearly every bill that I passed with bipartisan support. And that includes policies like paid family leave and the largest investment in our state's Medicaid program since the Affordable Care Act. And so as I head down to Washington, there's still some races to be called. But if it is in a Republican-controlled Congress, when I need to stand up to the Trump-Vance administration and their Project 2025 agenda, I will. But I will also continue to seek common ground with Republicans of conscience who are willing to work with Democrats to find common solutions for our shared challenges as a nation.
You know, say what you will about Sarah McBride. She is nothing if not optimistic and doggedly determined. Youth will do that to you. And who knows, when her colleagues discover she's just a person, just like them, and is no threat to women or men, maybe minds will open and hearts will soften. I just have no faith in that happening, at least not in today's political climate. Remember, one of the main planks in Trump's campaign this time was toxic masculinity. And what I see as toxic masculinity, people liking washed-up wrestlers ripping their shirts open at a presidential convention, that just doesn't equate with the opening of hearts and minds to me. But hey, I would love to be proven wrong. And finally, we go back to Sarah's interview on PBS.
In the wake of such a decisive victory by former President Trump, now President-elect Trump, there's a lot of soul-searching, finger-pointing within your party and the Democratic Party. And there is this consensus, this idea that Democrats are somehow out of touch with the voters and what really mattered to them in this election. Do you agree with that? And how did Democrats course correct?
What I can tell you is that when I was campaigning in Delaware, I was not hearing about these attacks on trans people. I was hearing about the cost of living. I was hearing about the need for affordable childcare, housing, and health care.
Should Democrats have leaned into those issues more?
I think Vice President Harris did lean into those issues, but I do believe that we can continue to put forward a bolder agenda that's very specific to the kitchen table issues that matter to people. But I think the problem that we have and what we need to address is a bigger problem in our politics. All of us have to do a better job of seeing the very real pain that exists across this country, across the political divide, and living the truth that we don't have to believe that people are right for what they're facing to be wrong, and we do not have to believe that they are right for us to try to right that wrong. And I think we can do a better job of demonstrating that radical compassion and that radical grace in our politics.
Congresswoman-elect from Delaware, Sarah McBride. I absolutely adore her, and I've invited her to be a guest on this show. But she better hurry. This show ain't going to be here much longer. I told you yesterday that she spoke at the 2016 Democratic National Convention. Let's hear what she had to say. And of course, there were a few Hillary Clinton talking points, but other than that, Sarah was Sarah. And what impressed me even more is that she didn't appear at all to be even the slightest bit nervous. Let's watch and listen.
4 years ago, I came out as transgender while serving as student body president in college. At the time, I was scared. I worried that my dreams and my identity were mutually exclusive. Since then, though, I've seen that change is possible. I witnessed history interning at the White House and helping my home state of Delaware pass protections for transgender people. Today, I see this change in the work of the LGBT caucus and in my own job at the Human Rights Campaign. But despite our progress, so much work remains. Will we be a nation where there's only one way to love, only one way to look, and only one way to live? Or will we be a nation where everyone has the freedom to live openly and equally? A nation that's stronger together? That is the question in this election. For me, this struggle for equality became all the more urgent when I learned that my future husband, Andrew, was battling cancer. I met Andy, who was a transgender man fighting for equality, and we fell in love. And yet, even in the face of his terminal illness, this 28-year-old, he never wavered in his commitment to our cause and his belief that this country can change. Andy and I married in 2014. And just 4 days after our wedding, he passed away. Knowing Andy left me profoundly changed. But more than anything else, his passing taught me that every day matters when it comes to building a world where every person can live their life to the fullest. Today in America, LGBTQ people are still targeted by hate that lives in both laws and in hearts. Many still struggle just to get by. But I believe that tomorrow can be different. Tomorrow we can be respected and protected, especially if Hillary Clinton is our president. And that's why I'm proud to stand here and say that I'm with her. Thank you all very much.
Well done, Sarah McBride. And that takes us to Nancy Mace and her one-woman war or crusade against trans women using the women's restroom. We heard a lot of clips yesterday wherein Mace kept saying she was not going to allow someone with a penis to use what she called a woman's safe place. And then she gave it all away and demonstrated she was full of crap all the way up to her well-sculpted eyebrows.
Jordan Conrad from Gateway Pundit. I'm here with Congresswoman Nancy Mace. So, Congresswoman, tell us more about your legislation banning men from women's restrooms.
Hey.
Why does the left find this acceptable?
Well, the left is calling me a bully for standing up for women and women's rights. A man has no business and no place in a woman's restroom, in our changing room, in our locker room. This fight starts here, it starts now, and I'm not going to stop with Capitol Hill. I'll be filing multiple bills to protect women and girls all across the country.
It's incredible. Yeah, we need to protect women's rights, protect their rights
It's just
to a
common
safe
sense.
space. Exactly.
And I'm literally getting death threats from the left. You know, why does some guy who dresses like a girl, why does he feel it's okay to threaten to kill me for standing up for women's rights? These people are crazy. It's insane. It's out of control.
It really is. Now, I really haven't been able to find much reporting on it. Maybe people are too afraid to question it. Has this guy even transitioned? Has he even removed his
I have no
genitalia?
I don't want to know. I don't know.
Me
I don't
neither.
care. If you're born a biological male, you use the boys and men's restroom.
Exactly.
Period.
All right, Congressman, thank you.
What a dummy reporter. Yeah, we got to protect women's rights. Yeah, you're right, Congresswoman. But after spending the entire day and night yesterday moaning about a trans woman she was so certain had a penis, at the end of the day, she admitted she doesn't know whether she has one or not. And what if she does? Like I said yesterday, she married a man. She's not interested in women. Nancy Mace has nothing to fear from Sarah McBride in the restroom or anywhere else. And after listening to Sarah McBride both yesterday and today, let's say she hasn't fully transitioned and is still in possession of her one-eyed wonder worm. Do you really think she'd enter a woman's shower? Does she sound like that kind of gal? Methinks not. Get real. And that reminds me, my ex-wife once told me she dreamed that she was attending a penis auction. She said the big ones went for $10 and the thick ones for $20. So I asked her, how about the ones like mine? And she said they gave those away. So I told her, I had a dream that I was attending a vagina auction. The pretty ones went for $1,000 and the little tight ones for $2,000. And then my wife asked, and how much for the ones like mine? And I replied, that's where they held the auction. And you know, during one of my one-night stands, a gal told me my penis was huge. But honestly, I think she was just pulling my leg. And I told this other gal that I indeed had a huge penis. She told me she didn't like huge penises. So I asked her, do you like liars? Another time I told this gal that my penis was like a computer. She asked if that was because it had loads of RAM and a big hard drive. Imagine her surprise when she found out it was Microsoft and full of viruses. And when it comes to my penis, I'll be honest, I have a cleanliness fetish. It has to be squeaky clean every minute of every day. And I do that for the same reason I polish my trophies. I want them to look good, even though they serve absolutely no purpose. And I'll never forget, I once walked in on my grandmother performing fellatio on my grandfather. I could never figure out why it wasn't cremated with the rest of him. I met this girl once. She said, "My name is Rebecca, but people call me Becky." I said, "Hi, Becky. My name is Doug, but people call me Dick." And she said, "How do you get Dick from Doug?" And I said, "You just asked nicely." And you know, I really shouldn't make penis jokes. No one should. Because when you think about it, a penis has a really sad life. Seriously. His hair is always a mess, his family is nuts, his neighbor's an a-hole, his best friend's a pussy, and his owner beats him. And you know, Alex, as I get older, I find my penis is a lot like California. It bends to the side a little, and it's always burning. But back to Nancy Mace, and she's been raped, by the way. Here she is demonstrating her Marjorie Trader Trash 8 Toes Green level maturity by standing beside the sign outside a woman's bathroom that says women, and then placing a handwritten sign, below average penmanship I should add, above the woman's sign that says biological. Now, there's no audio with this clip, just background noise, but it's a short one. You know, it's a good thing she's easy on the eyes, otherwise I would really hate her. And remember yesterday when she would first talk to anyone who stuck a microphone or camera in front of her, and when she ran out of reporters, she'd take selfies of herself talking and then have her aides record her while she was walking? Well, that continued yesterday, as did the reach of Mace's crusade. This is what she posted on X last night. Quote, "Oh, you thought threatening me would silence me? No, I just doubled down and filed a new bill to protect women and girls across the entire country on all federal property everywhere." End quote. And of course, that was accompanied by a video of her walking. And watch the end of this, the way she pre-planned it with whichever aide was recording her. When she gets to her big finale, the camera stays where it's been and she walks out of the frame. Watch.
Hey everyone, I told you I wasn't going to stop with Capitol Hill. I'm filing another bill tonight that would ban biological men from women's spaces on all federal property all across the country. This fight starts here. It starts now. Men are not allowed in women's spaces, period. Full stop, end of story.
Damn, she looks good. Oh, I'm sorry. I hate that bitch. That was actually good, both theatrically and performatively. But you see, that's all it is. Political, performative, theatrical, posturing, and posing. Nancy Mace is nothing if not a political media attention whore. And I believe that's all this is, a way to get attention and a way to fundraise, which is something AOC brought up in her comments pertaining to Nancy's crusade.
What Nancy Mace and what Speaker Johnson are doing are endangering all women and girls. Because if you ask them, what is your plan on how to enforce this? They won't come up with an answer. And what it inevitably results in are women and girls who are primed for assault because people are going to want to check their private parts in suspecting who is trans and who is cis and who's doing what. And so the idea that Nancy Mace wants little girls and women to drop trow in front of who? An investigator? Who would that be? In order, because she wants to suspect and point fingers at who she thinks is trans, is disgusting. It is disgusting. And frankly, all it does is allow these Republicans to go around and bully any woman who isn't wearing a skirt because they think she might not look woman enough. People have a right to express themselves, to dress how they want, and to be who they are. And if a woman doesn't look woman enough to a Republican, they want to be able to inspect her genitals to use a bathroom. It's disgusting. And everybody, no matter how you feel on this issue, should reject it completely. What are they doing? They're doing this so that Nancy Mace can make a buck and send a text and fundraise off an email. They're not doing this to protect people. They're endangering women. They're endangering girls of all kinds. And everybody should reject it. It's gross. Thank you.
Thank you.
You go, AOC. And here's the openly gay Democratic congressman from California, Robert Garcia.
Honestly, first, I am disgusted by those vile comments and these efforts. Why we are focusing on singling out one new member, a freshman member of this body now, and why we're policing that person and where they use the restroom is shameful. And we should push back on this disgusting rhetoric and actions. Sarah McBride has the support of our entire caucus and clearly of the people of Delaware who sent her here to represent them. We should allow her to legislate. And so this attacking of a member, I think, is gross, and it should bother us also that this is the first thing that this House majority is focused on. They're not talking about lowering the cost of groceries. They're not talking about making housing more affordable. They're policing where someone uses the restroom. And unfortunately, this is the kind of vile behavior that we should expect from them. And hopefully we can just continue to stand up and not allow our values to move backwards. So we stand 100% behind Sarah, and she's going to be an incredible legislator.
I agree. And Garcia's comments were echoed by the Democratic Minority Whip Catherine Clark, the Congresswoman from Massachusetts.
We're not off to a great start on this new governing majority that they have that's going to continue to be very close when the first question of this press conference has nothing to do with how we have security at our borders, how we make sure that every American has a fair shot, how we make sure that we have a budget by the end of the year. As we look out into the debt ceiling, how do we ensure we do not take our economy and the global economy off the cliff? What are they talking about there on day one? Is where one member out of 435 where she is going to use the bathroom? That is their focus. So this is not a great start for how we start to turn the focus to the American people.
And now we return to Nancy Mace. She followed up her original tweet in her video with another tweet, this time with accompanying photo. And this is what she said, quote, "A woman being bullied for, wait for it, protecting women is the height of gaslighting. I'll drink your tears in my Pinot Noir tonight. Cheers." End quote. You do that, Nancy, and when you get finished, downing your bottle of Pinot Noir, call me, okay? I hate for you to be alone in your time of need. Nobody, and I mean nobody, should be alone when they are executing some industrial strength trolling. Seriously, we'll crack another bottle, and shortly thereafter, I'll give you the worst 37 seconds of your life. I promise. On my mother's grave. You will try, Nancy Mace, but you will never be able to forget it. And let's rip the cover off this obvious ruse and prove what a flip-flopping phony Nancy Mace truly is. In an interview back in 2021, you know what she said? Quote, "I strongly support LGBTQ rights and equality." Mace told me at the time, "No one should be discriminated against. I have friends and family that identify as LGBTQ. Understanding how they feel and how they've been treated is important. Having been around gay, lesbian, and transgender people has informed my opinion over my lifetime." End quote. As well, in 2022, she broke with the majority of the Republican Party to support the Respect for Marriage Act, which enshrines safe-sex marriage protections into federal law. Now, as for her wanting to protect women, this same shrew, this same harpy fishwife, Nancy Mace, was one of 172 Republican legislators in the House who voted against the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act. I found this nugget last night that I'd never seen before. Here's the ever-classy Ms. Mace back in July of this year.
To this committee that we've asked you provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th, yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of shit today. You're just being completely dishonest.
Mr. Chairman,
I want to.
Come on.
We have to maintain decorum in this committee, no matter how upset we get.
Have you provided any and all memos to?
And anyone remember this from just a few months ago? Mace appeared on This Week with George Stephanopoulos. George was asking her, as a rape victim, how she could support an adjudicated rapist. Let's watch and listen.
I still get judged for it today.
I'm asking you a very simple question.
I answered it. You're shaming me for my political choices.
I'm asking you a question about why you endorse someone who's been found liable for rape.
It was not a criminal court. This was
a civil court.
It was a civil court. And by the way, she joked about the judgment and what she was going to do with all that money, and I find that offensive.
I'm asking you about
the man. But as a rape victim who's been shamed for years now because of her rape, you're trying to shame me again by asking me this political question.
You've repeated that again.
I think it's offensive. As a woman, I find it offensive. For my political choices, I've endorsed the man that I believe is best for our country. It's not Joe Biden. And you looked at the dueling rallies yesterday in Georgia. Laken Riley's family was with Donald Trump. They weren't with Joe Biden. The same guy yesterday that apologized for calling her killer an illegal, who wasn't illegal. And here you are trying to shame a rape victim. I find it disgusting.
I mean, you keep saying I'm shaming you.
You are. The question, it is.
How is the question asking you about a presidential candidate who's been...
You're asking a rape victim.
And there's no question about that. And you've courageously talked about that.
Because I've been raped. I think that's disgusting.
No, I'm questioning your political choices because you're supporting
me. You're trying
someone who's been found liable for rape. Actually, I'm not trying to shame you.
You are. That's exactly
what you're doing.
You're not
answering the question.
I think it's disgusting.
Well, you're welcome to say that, but you also have to answer the question. Why are you supporting someone who's been found liable for rape?
I just answered your question.
What is the answer?
He was not found guilty in a criminal court of law. It was sexual abuse. It wasn't actually rape, by the way. And E. Jean Carroll joked about all the money she's going to get and made a mockery out of this case. And I think that's offensive. There's a reason why women don't come forward. And when you have someone who says that they're raped and they make a mockery out of this civil court judgment, it's offensive to other women. It makes it harder for other women to come forward when another woman has made a mockery of it.
You said women don't come forward because they are afraid. They are afraid because
they're defamed
and shamed
by those who are trying to shame me this morning.
They are afraid to come forward, as you said, because they are defamed by those who commit the rape. That's what Donald Trump has been found guilty of doing.
He defended himself over that and denies that it ever happened, but he was not found guilty in a criminal court of law.
Now, did you catch that? Someone who just can't stop telling you she's a rape victim. She just said it wasn't actually rape. And it was only a civil trial, not criminal. And as I've stated before, the only reason it wasn't rape was because New York law at the time, and it's since been changed, but then it required that it be proved that the penetration of the vagina was indeed done by a man's penis. And E. Jean Carroll testified that she couldn't be sure if Trump penetrated her with his penis or his finger. No wonder he hates her so much. If you can't tell the difference between a man's finger and his penis, there's probably not a whole lot of difference between the two. But there you have yet another example of Republicans exercising their favorite tactic, false equivalence. E. Jean Carroll is worse than Trump sexually assaulting her because she joked about how she was going to use the money. But back to her point, she kept accusing Stephanopoulos of shaming her. Question number one, was he? Is asking a rape victim why she's supporting a rapist, is that shaming her? And number two, if it is that so wrong? Serious question. Asking for a friend or two. If Stephanopoulos was indeed shaming Mace, was he out of line? Or is it okay, maybe even warranted? Again, just asking for a friend. 221-7283 is our call-in number here at the station, folks. If you would like to chat, that's 702-221-SAVE. To the phones we charged with vim and vigor, and we'll start with our resident psychologist, Carl. You're first. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, hey, Doug. Am I getting through?
You are.
Good. The last couple of days, I know you were busy, so you didn't get a chance to take calls. But listen, regarding Nancy Mace, she says she doesn't want a man anywhere near women's changing or restrooms or what. You know, I hope you remember, and everybody does, when Trump bragged over and over about when he ran a beauty pageant. He says, I used to go into young girls' changing rooms and see all the young girls undressed. He bragged about that over and over.
Yeah,
I hope
he
people remember that.
He said that on Howard's Duties. And because I own the pageant, they let me get away with it. I just go in and they're half dressed. I got to check it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and she says it shouldn't be anywhere near the. Well, where did she talk to him about it? And one other quick thing, my wife says if I get a hold of you to say that after.
that was funny, Carl. One other quick thing, my wife.
Yeah.
That was a setup for a real dirty joke. I hope you know that.
No. She says after 2 years of Trump's dictatorial policies and moronic cabinet, he will probably be thrown out of office anyway. So not to worry about it. It just took a couple of years of his dictatorial policies. And people will put up with it, even Republicans.
Yeah, but you know, Carl, I don't take a whole lot of solace in that because in 2 years, in 2 months, this guy can do irreparable damage. Look at who he's trying to stock his cabinet with. Not people that want the job or will do the job as it's supposed to be done. People who hate the job and the department for which they're being nominated. He can do a lot of damage in 2 months. I'm not going to sit here and feel good about 2 years.
Yeah, but he picks people who unfortunately not just think the way he does. They don't have to, as long as they agree with what he thinks, even if they have different thoughts.
Yep.
That's the problem right there. It's a sad
hear you,
case.
Carl.
But anyway.
Okay, Carl, I'll let you run. I appreciate you calling, brother. You take care.
You take care. Okay,
702-221-7283 is our caller number. That's area code 702-221-SAV. That's right, SAV. Back to the phones, we'll talk to Tony. You're next. Thanks for calling.
Doug freaking Basham.
Tony freaking Corelli. How are you?
Yeah, you got it this time. The last time I called, you didn't even remember I called. Must be that new medication they're giving you.
Oh, hell, you wouldn't. I have all sorts of bottles here, Tony.
Yeah, well, we don't need to go into that. I still know some people from the ATF and all that.
Oh, okay.
I'm calling because normally I don't get a chance to do anything until after between 12. It's a full-time job. I got 10 hours a day plus.
Well, you seem to find a lot of time to comment on a certain message board for 2 hours.
Yeah, hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, but then I'm always looking at my shoulder, look at the radio, so.
So what's up, Tony?
Anyway, there's a means to an end, my Canadian friend. I like to talk about almost everything but politics, but I know that's your forte.
Yeah, but I don't make my callers talk about what I do. You can talk about whatever you want. You can talk about my Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, yeah, for a second I thought I tuned into the Playboy channel.
You wish.
You there?
I am.
Yeah, Doug. Oh, boy. I think I'm losing you.
Oh, are you on your cell driving? Hello? Tony, are we losing
All
you?
right. Yep. Doug, I think so. I'll try maybe tomorrow.
Okay, I can hear you. If you got something to say, you're coming in loud and clear. It doesn't matter if you can't hear me. I'll just shut up and let you talk.
Yeah, I'm not getting you on speaker. I think there's too much interference where I'm at. Doug, I apologize. I didn't mean to take up the last bit of your time.
Oh, that's okay, Tony. I'm happy to hear from you.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, call me back tomorrow when you're in a safe place and hopefully a good cell, and we'll continue our chat.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.
Hey, take care. Drive safe, Tony. Yeah, Tony pays attention to different shows, but he does work all day, and he drives around, and I don't know how he keeps track of message boards and the radio and does his job, but he seems to, so I guess that's all that matters. Hey, folks, I got more on this story, but it's longer than what we had time for, so I thought I'd finish out the show with a couple phone calls. But I got some real juicy bits that I'm going to save for tomorrow, just to wrap our week up before we head into the weekend. So on that note, I will take my leave. I thank you for listening. I thank you for watching. I thank you for just being you. Oh, sorry. That even made me throw up a little in my mouth. No, I appreciate you listening, watching. I appreciate you calling, and we will do this all over again tomorrow, hopefully with you. Until then, take care.
Hungry for great deals? Look no further than Silver Sevens Casino at the corner of Flamingo and Paradise, the locals' favorite for value eats. Get 2 tacos and a beer.